Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Monday, the 17th of April. Warm welcome to everyone who's watching in live or watching in catch up. My name is Mary Gregory. I'm an executive coach and leadership consultant, and also author of the book Ego, Get Over Yourself and Lead. And every week I'm sharing my thoughts, reflections, to set us up for the week, a bit of Monday magic as we're calling it. And this week we are continuing with the theme of psychological safety. We missed last week because it was Bank Holiday Monday, so I'm continuing with the second part on psychological safety. Last time when we were together, I spoke about what psychological safety is and why it's important and how it benefits organizations and enables teams to be high performing. This week, I'm focusing really on what you can do as a leader to create psychological safety. If you remember last week, we talked about how the way you show up, your behavior, the way you're being is going to impact those people around you. And in fact, there's that great piece of research that was done around how people join organizations, but they leave because of their managers and because of their leaders. So people are inspired by the type of organization they're joining, but often it's the way they're treated, the behavior of the leaders and managers around them that cause them to leave. So this is why it's so important that as a leader, you are conscious and mindful of the way you show up and the way you're impacting people. And the way you impact people will create psychological safety or not, as the case may be. So I thought it'd be useful to consider 3 things that you can do that will support you to be creating a psychologically safe environment around you. And the first of those things is to consider how judgmental you're being. So rather than being judgmental, to suspend judgment and to become curious. Now, the thing is, as human beings, we are always judgmental. It would be impossible to cross a street without making some sort of judgment call on whether we should cross or not. So we do it, as we say, to keep ourselves safe and to help us get by in life. However, from a psychological perspective, if we are judging other people, and we may be judging fairly or unfairly, that will make a difference. And often what happens within organizations is we are judging from a critical point of view. So we're critiquing what someone is or isn't doing. Now, that in itself can be helpful at times, but if you are going to be overplaying that, then you are going to be causing a certain degree of anxiety around those around you. So consider times where you felt really comfortable and able to offer feedback to someone, or being proud to show your work to someone because you know you're going to get supportive and encouraging response from them. On the other hand, what about when you might have been nervous to show yourself to others because you know you're going to get judged, you're going to get criticized? Now, the thing about judgment is the place where it starts with us and how we judge and criticize ourselves. So the first thing we need to do in terms of becoming more curious is to become more curious about our own reactions and responses. And from that point of view, help us be more open to a learning frame mind. I'm just going to have a sip of water because I've got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. There we go. So if we get curious about our reactions and responses, that opens ourselves up to learning. Similarly, if we are more curious about someone's behavior and what they might have said to us, that is going to open up us to learning and to them. And you can start creating a much more learning environment around you, which is going to be much more psychologically safe. So consider next time you've noticed somebody you're thinking, not really very pleased about how they've done that. That is your inner critic. That is your judgment waking up. And you may be going straight into critical mode. What's useful at that point is to, when having caught yourself, is to maybe open it up into a question and just get curious around what's happening here that's meaning that you're behaving in this way. And be curious. And be curious in yourself. Curiosity does not hurt. It supports learning. Judgment can be hurtful, can cause anxiety and inhibit learning. So the second thing we can do then, in thinking about being more curious and being more open and less judgmental with ourselves and with others is to also, as a leader, go first. So consider how you show up and the way that you can be vulnerable with other people. Now, for some, this might feel like a real stretch and might feel like, oh God, I'm going to make myself look foolish. I'm going to make myself look wrong. I'm going to make myself look stupid. And as human beings, this is where our ego comes into it. We are often standing for wanting to look good and avoid looking bad, and really trying to avoid any sort of anxiety that might be related to us looking not okay in front of others. But actually, as a leader, it is so important that you are willing and able to actually own up to when you've made a mistake, but also if you're feeling concerned about things, to share those concerns. It's a very humanizing way of being to do that. So I'll give you an example of when this happened for me, and I didn't realize I was doing it, but I got the feedback from a training group I was working with. And it was the first time I was running, this is way back, first time I was running an assertiveness program. And at the end of the program, people said to me they got so much out of it because as a facilitator, they found that I was very approachable and that I actually got it wrong a lot. And at first I thought, oh gosh, maybe I'm not a very good facilitator. But they weren't actually talking about my facilitation. They were talking about the way I shared my own stories around the challenges I'd faced in my life and in my working situations where things hadn't gone perfectly. And that really helped them open up and explore their own challenges when it came to being assertive. So by opening up ourselves and sharing our own stories and our own struggles, we demonstrate a degree of vulnerability that encourages other people to feel okay about opening themselves up. So I'm mentioning this as the second thing you can do, but I want to put a slight health warning against this. And this is what I learned from reading Brené Brown, who, if you're familiar with Brené Brown, she's done some fantastic TED Talks. She talks about the whole power of vulnerability and getting over our sense of shame as leaders in order that we can be more vulnerable. But in her book, Dare to Lead, she talks about the whole element of how much we share and how much we don't. And she encourages us to share and to be vulnerable because that does encourage that connection. It does create psychological safety. But we're not talking about sharing to the point that your whole life history needs to come out and you need to share all of that in your work situation. That is probably what we'd call inappropriate sharing. What we're talking about here is sharing your own. You haven't got all the answers. There'll be times where you won't know the answer. It's okay to share that. You're in a situation working with other people where you can learn together, and the answer is going to emerge as you go through that process of change. So it's like share to the point where it's helpful and where it's encouraging that safety and encouraging other people to share, and it's offering that degree of openness and honesty. But just be mindful of not sharing to the point where you might be causing greater anxiety for others, or you might be telling them so much and giving them so much information, they might well be overwhelmed by all the things that you're sharing about. So it's being mindful and finding that balance in your sharing. But through demonstrating that vulnerability and through going first, you are really, really helping others feel okay to do that. The final thing then is all about getting clear about what you need and expect from others, and also opening up the dialogue and the conversation of what they need and expect from you. And in the coaching world, we call this contracting. And as a coach, I use it every time I start working with a group or working with an individual, completely because it helps support psychological safety and helps people feel comfortable and okay in the environment that you're creating. And the reason that it's really, really useful to get clear about what people expect and need and what you expect and need from them is that we go through life assuming. And when we're assuming, it opens ourselves up to mistakes being made, to us not necessarily feeling clear about what we are here for, to maybe us having different pictures about the goals that we're trying to achieve. So we may well be going off in different directions. Actually getting that clarity around what we need and want from each other, what we expect, is going to help create that psychological safety. So there you go. There are 3 things you can do as a leader to help create safety around you and the environment and the team that you're creating with you. Firstly, be curious rather than judgmental. Secondly, go first. Be vulnerable, but be mindful of the level to which you share your vulnerability, share what you're learning, share your mistakes. Don't overwhelm people with how much you're sharing. So find that balance. And finally, consider getting really clear around what people expect from you and what you expect from them and what your needs are. So there's some clarity and you're all moving together in the same direction. So I hope you found that useful today. And as you go through the week, think about different parts of those 3 elements that I've shared with you and the impact that they have in terms of the relationships that you're establishing as you go through the week. On this Thursday coming, I'm very excited to say we have our Leadership Live, and it's all about psychological safety and ego. So we'll be going into some of these elements in a lot more depth. So do join us. You can sign up on Eventbrite. Do look out for excuse me. Do look out for my flyers as they're coming through the week. But do join us on Thursday. So look forward to seeing you there at 5 p.m. this Thursday. Otherwise, have a fantastic week and look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.